So, what the hell is going on in Minnesota? What the hell is going on with our administration? And what the hell is going on with mass deportations currently? Starting with mass deportations. So, we've had deportations all throughout our history. Just in recent history, we've had them under Obama and Biden, and currently under Trump. What Trump is doing, number wise, it doesn't even, I don't even think it matches it, let alone exceeds what Obama was doing. So, why is this administration so hell bent on proving their dedication to this massive deportations, and they're not even effectively doing it? But yet, it's like these ICE agents are just straight out of control. It's like, how about you reel it back in a little bit and get this under control and effectively uphold the law? And that's not what this video is actually going to be about. I just kind of went on a little tangent there. Going back to Minnesota, why it's just a little coincidental that the one place that was being investigated and exposed for massive Somali daycare fraud that is governed by Waltz, who has been egging on these protests, just so happens to also be the same place where all of this chaos is ensuing. To me, it's just a little coincidental, and that's all it may be, but it's just a question I've been kind of wondering. And, you know, I am all for and encourage protesting. But, well, for example, so as degenerate as it may be, I support the decriminalization and legalization of all drugs. So what if for protest I decided to, let's see. Okay, let's say I decided to impede and obstruct a federal drug raid with a gun, no less. How do you think that would turn out for me? You see, the state is violence. The state enforces laws through the use of violence. The state has a monopoly on violence, and anything intertwined with the state is violence or the threat of it. Even government programs, even left-wing policies, especially left-wing policies, you cannot have the redistribution of wealth without at least the threat of violence, which by extension is violence. That is the same government getting now to the administration, who at any time they wish can tell us, oh, you're not allowed to bring a gun to a protest. You have the director of the Department of Homeland Security, the director of the FBI, and the president himself all saying this, more or less. What the hell are they talking about? We have the First and the Second Amendment, and they are interconnected. They both protect each other. What, are we just going to look at our guns in our house? No. We should all bring them to protest. I mean, look, I don't know if we should all bring them to protest, but that's not my choice. That's not my decision. That's not the government's decision or Trump's decision. That is the individual's decision, because it's a protection granted by the Constitution. So you've got ICE obeying or enforcing the law, upholding the law. That's what's going on right now. And in order to enforce the law, you use violence. That's just what it comes down to, okay? Now, what is ICE, and where does ICE come from? Well, ICE was formed in, I believe, 2003, and it was formed under moved to the Department of Homeland Security. So you can understand right there, while that would leave room for it to be more militarized, Department of Homeland Security. And it was formed under the pretense that it would help us against terrorism, terrorists, and national security. Well, that was what was best for the country, right? And just so happens we also gained a bigger surveillance state, and we lost some freedoms, we lost privacy, and now, under that same pretense, they can use illegal immigration as a reason to get more laws. I mean, look, this administration, exactly what I was saying, is telling us we can't bring our guns here, we can't bring our guns there. That quick, you've got people now agreeing with them that are Second Amendment champions. While gender may or may not be fluid, people's beliefs certainly can be. They can just change on a whim to protect the person they voted for, to not make themselves look like an idiot for the person they voted for. Their tribalism comes before their core beliefs, and it's just pathetic to see. So what was ICE before it was ICE? It was, I believe, the INS, which was formed in the early 30s, and then they had moved it to the Department of Labor. And by who? None other than the Democrats' beloved FDR. And it was under the Department of Labor because it makes actually a lot of sense, because immigration was by and large a workforce issue. Because, the thing is a lot of the right wing capitalist business owners want immigration. They want open borders. They might put out this line like they don't want it, but they want it. It's for the cheap labor. And it's probably that's got a lot to do with why Trump hasn't been enforcing he's been definitely enforcing the border, but hasn't been enforcing the deportations, because that's not what the business owners want. So by and large, it was often a left-wing issue, and that's why Bernie Sanders himself has been documented as saying that open borders is a right-wing issue, not a left-wing issue, and he's not for open borders. So anyway, that's why it was in the Department of Labor. And FDR, of course, he was the guy behind the New Deal, which was the biggest wealth redistribution of America that we had ever seen, government program. It's probably still up there in terms of the inflation rates of what was then and now. But yeah, and of course, that is also government violence. To enforce any government program is government violence. So, but that was what was for the betterment of the country, right? It was for the good of the country. Now, that same person's mindset, of course, what does he do? Well, he moves the INS from the Department of Labor to the Department of Justice for more effective immigration control. So, can you see how little by little the government agencies can become more police states, more militarized? And what did he turn around and do? Well, he rounded up over 120,000 Japanese Americans. About 2/3 of them were actual citizens that were here for decades. He rounded up Germans and Italians, and they put them in concentration camps, or as they like to call them, internment camps. No charges, no warrants, just off you go. So anyone with the mindset of big government programs to help the poor is also, blink of an eye, going to use that same government violence and power to round up its citizens, because that's what government is. Government is force, the state is violence. And so you might think, well, let's reel it back. Why do we have to have this on a federal level? What about making it a states issue? Well, it largely was a states issue prior to the Civil War, but, well, after the Civil War, the war where they fought, a little to do with states' rights, among other things. Well, maybe something to do with the South, the states' rights proponents losing that war. Shortly after, the federal government, there's a Supreme Court ruling that immigration would be a federal responsibility. And why was it a federal responsibility? Well, that's because when it was a states issue, they were saying that the states were too harsh on immigration and immigrants. So, to protect the immigrants, they were going to make it a federal issue. Because why? Well, that was for the good of the country, right? So, yeah, a good intentioned, oh, we're doing this to protect the citizens, has now become a major militarized government violent program that is killing anyone that impedes on their duty. So just keep that in mind. So, I don't know. What is the point of all this? I don't know. I didn't have work today. I just felt like talking. But I guess maybe next time you feel like you want to enforce a government policy, just realize that just ask yourself, is it for the good of the country?